Welcome back to the channel, folks, for another episode in the 5-minute family series aimed at the beginner or newcomer to botany. In today's episode we will be looking at the family Asteraceae, or otherwise known as the Compositae, or put simply, the Daisy family, where we'll be looking at the common features and characteristics which will enable further taxonomic identification. So it follows knowing your plant families is the first step in systematic identification, where plants can be differentiated down to a binomial given in the Latin form of genus and species, i.e. 2 parts. There are of course times when the features and characteristics of plants are so similar we need to drill down using dichotic keys, which we find in expert volumes such as Clive Stace, The Flora of the British Isles. And we'll be dealing with dichotic keys in more advanced episodes. The family Asteraceae is probably the top ranking global family with an order of some 30,000 named species. In the United Kingdom, the Asteraceae are likely to be the most recorded family. In this brief overview of the family, we look at examples as wild plants, garden plants and agricultural plants. This slide shows a bewildering array of capitula or inflorescences seen in the wild Asteraceae, and we will be looking at that flower structure in much more detail. The intricate and ornate capitula of the Asteraceae, capitulum in the singular, has led it to be bred as cultivars for garden and horticultural use. The Asteraceae also have agricultural or economic value in the form of oils, vegetables, or indeed pharmaceuticals or insecticides. In this slide we see the oils of sunflower seed, leaves of lettuce and chicory, and the tubers of artichoke. In an Asteraceae known as sweet leaf or Stevia rhaudodia, we see value as an artificial sweetener. The overall form of daisies with Ray Florets may be best described as having actinomorphic symmetry. Whilst technically an individual Disk Floret may be described as zygomorphic, this is much less significant from a pollination point of view, as the role of the floret is simply to form a tube which reaches a shallow nectar flask, making it accessible to a wider range of insects. Or more specifically, those insects with shorter tongues, the nectar flask being of the order of a millimetre or so. The strategy of high-density Disk Florets ensures a type of pollination that may be best described as conveyor belt, with the insect frequently seen dipping his tongue in succession. Let us look at the key identification feature on the Asteraceae, namely the inflorescence of a typical capitulum. Here we see a typical inflorescence composed of 2 types of floret, an outer ray floret and a compact disc of numerous of 50 to 100 Disk Florets, which are minute tiny flowers in their own right. Both the ray and Disk Florets share the common characteristic of the Asteraceae, namely 5 fused petals. If you take time to look at the ray floret carefully, you will see the remnants of 5 ridges or 5 petal teeth at the end of the ray floret, where the petals have become fused. Each tiny Disk Floret contains also 5 stamens. In the case of the white outer ray florets of dog daisy and common daisy, which are all female and serve to direct insects to the central Disk Florets, where the shallow nectar flask makes it accessible to a wide variety of insects. The capitula of this family can present as Disk Florets only, ray florets only, or disc and ray florets. and we'll be looking at examples of this in our practical demonstration in part 2. We turn our attention now to the involucre, which are modified leaf bracts protecting the plant. These involucral bracts are sometimes known as filaries and contain a number of clues in terms of their number, shape, width, length, hairiness and presence of glands or texture to be important in the identification of the species. The ovary of each floret contains one fruit which turns into a dry seed known as an achene. This dry fruit may be dispersed on the wind by a parachute-like structure known as a pappus. In other species of Asteraceae, this arrangement may be modified by producing a hook-like structure which spreads on the fur of animals. So, in summary, if your flower has a typical capitulum morphology with a daisy-like flower, if your flower has an outer capitulum of Ray Florets and or numerous central small Disk Florets, or if the capitulum of the flower is surrounded by involucral bracts or filaries, the Disk Florets have 5 fused anthers joined into a tube. The style of the floret having 2 branched styles. The fruit produced has a dry seed or achene with a parachute-like pappus. Then the plant is likely to be in the family Asteraceae. So we're going to start off by talking about the florets of the Daisy family, and we'll begin by looking at the daisy, the common daisy, Bellis perennis, which for the purpose of the video I've picked some dog daisy because they're larger and easier to see on the camera. And what interests us are these little white things which you'd be forgiven if you called petals. Each one of these little white in inverted commas petals is actually a flower in its own right, and it's called a Ray Floret, as you can see from here. The area towards the centre is a very packed or composite area containing things called Disk Florets. And as you will see from the photographs that follow, the Disk Florets contain many small little flowers with stamens and styles and other reproductive parts. The main characteristic of the Asteraceae family is that it has 5 fused petals and 5 anthers, which may not become apparent to you at this stage, but you should always look at the edge of the floret, the Ray Floret here, both in the dog daisy and the dandelion here, and you'll see it has 5 little teeth where the petals have actually fused. So this is an example of a flower with a Ray Floret and a Disk Floret, and it's the combinations that the Asteraceae can throw up which are quite ingenious. So we've got Ray Florets and Disk Florets. In the dandelion, however, we only have Ray Florets. On these 2 specimens which we've met, and in this one here, which is the Pineapple Mayweed, which is the subject of the video, we have only Disk Florets, and in the case of Pineapple Mayweed, they are conical in shape and contain numerous Disk Florets in the form of a pseudo anthem, which is the structure. This other companion over here is Groundsel, and Groundsel also, as you can see from the general flower head here, is Disk Florets only. So what you should be gleaning from this is there are three combinations before us. There are the Ray Florets and the Disk Florets on the Daisy, only the Ray Florets on the Dandelion, and in the Pineapple Mayweed and the Groundsel only Disk Florets. Nevertheless, they all hold the same botanical characteristic, which is 5 fused petals and 5 anthers. And when we look at the plant as a whole, we refer to this area as the capitulum, and this capitulum will be packed tightly or composite with each little individual floret. So there we have a little account of the flower structure that we see in the Asteraceae, and it's worth just going into that as we will do towards the end of the season in the videos on each individual plant family, because if we are going to identify botanicals, we need to know the common characteristics of the family that the plant is in, and then we drill down to the genus and the species, often using keys, which are this book here by Stace, The New Flora of the British Isles by Clive Stace. But many beginners don't like using keys because they're very cumbersome. And if you don't know what a key is, it's something along the lines, does it have 5 petals? Yes, go to 7. Is it blue? Yes, go to 8. So it's a very regimented view to identifying the flower, but in some more complex species it's entirely necessary. So I hope that just explains a little bit about the flower structure of the Daisy family and the Asteraceae, and that we can now proceed and just look at the general setting which we find Pineapple Mayweed in, which is a relatively easy flower to identify. And in the 50 flower series, the majority of plants that I've covered are relatively easy to identify without the necessity of keys, and there is limited confusion species to impact on the accuracy of the identification. So this is just a little spread, very quickly again. Ornamental Senecio, which is got Disk and Ray Florets. Dog Daisy or Leucanthum, which has both Ray Florets and Disk Florets. Ragweed, which is Disk and Ray Florets. Dandelion here, which has only Ray Florets. Here we are, Dandelion here. And obviously the one that we're looking at in this video is the Mayweed and the Groundsel, which only have Disk Florets and are of that form in the Daisy family.